We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. If you wanna support this college football's Rebel Outpost with a donation, help us keep the lights on and grow the channel, just hit that $ where you make your comment, and I will get you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. Again, hopefully everybody has gotten over the Golden Gopher propaganda show of yesterday. I know there was a couple of people who DM'd me and said they thought it was absolutely nuts for how I believe the Golden Gophers are going to play in 2026. All I got to say is bring it on. Bring it on, baby. Bring it on. Let's go. Let's go. That's number one. Thank you all for who joined us for the Golden Gopher watch party, spring football game. It was a lot of fun. We are going to, and yesterday we also did a spotlight on the Golden Gophers. So the spotlight series went on the Golden Gophers yesterday during the watch party. Today the spotlight is going directly on what's this name again? What's the name of this team again? Oh, that's right. The Georgia Bulldogs. The Georgia Bulldogs. The spotlight is squarely on the Georgia Bulldogs. Squarely on the Georgia Bulldogs. No, I have not started. Now I do have Bush Apple Light in the refrigerator, which is in the studio. I got a small refrigerator right over in the corner of the studio, and I do have Bush Apple Light in there, but I have not. I'm on water. I'm on water. The water is in here, in my cup. There's my refill water. Look. Hey guys and gals, it's almost May. It's almost May. We're not in March anymore. We're not in February anymore. We're not licking our wounds in January anymore, except for the Indiana Hoosiers. We're almost in May. The spring football games are almost all over. Every single day we do a live show. We do a spotlight on a team, and a lot of it's positivity, some of it's negativity. I'm already getting all pumped up. The PATC family, we're already way ahead of schedule. We're breaking down all these teams. I watch college football YouTube, just like you all do. And people are still focusing on the past, what happened last year. They're still licking their wounds. Not Greg the Gold. I'm not licking nothing. What I'm saying is, we're on our way to 2026. And it's going to be an exciting football season. We're covering everything. Everything that is happening off the field, everything that is happening on the field. We cover everything because we love everything in college. This is an independent national college football channel for college football sickos like you. If you are in the chat room, you are a college football sicko. On April 26th, on a beautiful Sunday, if you are in the chat room, you are a college football sickos. And speaking of college football sickles, there is the incredible edible Bill G. Cowboy 5 gifted membership Big Sky Dog, Justin Lucas, North Carolina State Wolfpack, Expansion Crush, the Indiana Hoosier, Jay Morton, and Random Tees. Thank you so much, Bill G, for the 5 gifted memberships, the 5 names that I just read off. Please say thank you. Please say thank you in the chat room for Bill G's incredible generosity once again. Bill G has been doing this for days, weeks, and months. It is critical at this point. Now, again, I'm being a little bit, how do I say it? I'm biased, all right? I think it's really critical that you become a PATC member right now. We dropped a little bit of intel a couple days ago, right? A couple of days ago, we dropped a little bit of intel on the Florida State Seminoles. We're going to talk about it today during the live show, and we're going to expand on it. But we dropped a little bit of Florida State Seminoles intel in a early peak Cloak and Dagger episodes for members only. So they got the early peak. And now along with them, everybody else, everyone's going to know what I told them a couple of days ago in the report. and then we're going to expand on it. So become a member. Go to the link in the description box below the video. Hit that link and become a member of this program. Become a family member. And there's also episodes for everybody. We dropped episode 488. UConn being targeted by the Pac-12 as a football-only member, according to John Casano. I gave you my opinion on that, and we're going to expand on that in this live show as well. So it's another stacked show. Another stacked show on a Sunday, April 26th. But Bill G, say thank you to Bill G when you get the opportunity. And all of you, are knighted cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. My goodness. Zero Wiz. Sparty is in the house. 20 gifted memberships. 20 gifted memberships.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
My goodness. Thank you, Zero Wiz. Thank you for your incredible generosity. Thank you, Bill G. Bill G has been helping this program out, helping a lot of people out. Thank you, Bill G. Zero Wiz. My goodness. Anthony Zappin. Brown's backer. Brandon Whitney. Michael Morsi. Fairways 1918. Carrie Goal Nose. Husker Mini. Case Struthers. Go Blue. Pretty No Girl. I got the keys. Keith Moore is back in the house. Big Ten fan. Amelia Noel. Camu Inagagi. KFC Bats. David Kreitzer. Daniel Kings. Cranky Tiger. Smitty and Daryl Turner all were gifted a membership by the generosity of Zero Wiz. When you get an opportunity, please say thank you to Zero Wiz. Please say thank you to Zero Wiz. All of you are knighted cloak and dagger. That means you can go to our library of episodes, watch all the episodes, including the early peak cloak and dagger episodes that are going to be dropping all off season. So buckle up, brace for impact. Thank you, Zero Wiz. Thank you, Sparty. You're so very kind. You are so very, very kind. Thank you for helping us keep the lights on and grow the channel, Zero Wiz. And Bill G, thank you, sir. You're very kind. Absolutely. Very humble. Thank you very much. Now, for those early peak Cloak and Dagger members who did watch the last early peak Cloak and Dagger episode, you already have the answer on which is the likeliest pathway to the P2 for Florida State. But we're going to expand on that. So I think there was 120 members who watched that episode, probably a little bit higher now. But we're going to expand on that story. All right? A door was open to us, just like we've been very fortunate about the doors that were open to us in June 15th, 2024, the Florida State Money Perch. A door was open to us just a couple of days ago. That's why we dropped the information in the early peak Cloak and Dagger. So we got a lot to get to today. It's going to be a very interesting, live, and dynamic show. Welcome on in, everybody. Let's do a quick roll call. We got Bruce Harris. Boomer. We got the Cornhusker. Hello, Mad Gopher. Hello, Crazy Cornhusker. MBM is in the house. Ryan Brooks. Go Tigers. Keep the Big Ten out of SEC country. My goodness. Breeze Frey's in the house. Bob Swinger. Coy. Daniel Gorby. Amazing Blue. Adam is here. Dave B is here. Jade Price is here. A path diverged in a wood. I took the one that led to the Big Ten. That has made all the difference. Paraphrasing, of course, Morris Simmons is in the house. Bill Kukuza is here. Norvell better get the program turned around, or he most likely looking for another job. I agree with you, sir. I agree with you. Mountaineer Memes is in the house. Edward the Auburn Tiger is here. Edward the Auburn Tiger. Benjamin Griffin. Ray Ray is in the house. He takes his shot at the Georgia Bulldogs. He takes his shot at the... I'm going to be honest with all you. Right, you know what? I'll wait till we get there. The Georgia Bulldogs, they did the Southeastern Conference is difficult this year. I'm really in a quandary. I got the Longhorns, the LSU Tigers, Georgia Bulldogs, Ole Miss. I got A&M, Alabama just missing the playoffs. I got a Florida as an improving team. But the Georgia Bulldogs, they had a couple of really good, and I want to say on at least one of them, a really sneaky portal pickup that I think is going to make a big difference to the Bulldogs. I'm still going to have LSU for number 2 right now, but I got a feeling that I might be moving up Georgia back up to number 2. We'll see what happens in August, but let me put it to you this way. When I did the spotlight, when I broke down all the tape, when I broke down all the roster movement, Georgia came out a little bit higher than I had anticipated. That's why we're doing the spotlight series. That's why we did the way too early rankings. That's why we're going to do later spotlights, and later we're going to connect all the dots. We're going to connect all the dots. Remember, Greg the Cooler is gone. Bye-bye. Greg the Gold is in the house. And I got to put Georgia in the right spot. I just don't know if that's a little bit behind LSU or a little bit ahead of LSU. Das Tacos is in the house. Thanks for coming on in, Das Tacos. Nitwit, no. Yes, PSU Nitwit is here. D5 Terps is here. Yeah, hoping that Drew Allard does well. Marcus Williams is in the house. Tumasta, the Almighty. Yeah, Io did pretty good last night. I did not expect that. No, he's been a good He's been good with the Timberwolves. He was good with the Chicago Bulls. But can we be honest though? The Timberwolves, again, they're not going to be able to do it. They might be able to win this series against the Nuggets. They're up 3-1. But without Anthony Edwards, he's going to be out a couple of weeks. They're just not going to be able to. Once again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. When it comes to Minnesota men's sports, it does not matter. Because I am the re-elected mayor of Loserville City. So Ayo, Dosunumu, great game, congratulations, heroic effort. At the end of the day, there ain't going to be no world championship for Minnesota in men's sports as long as I'm sitting in this chair. The week after I'm gone, the week after I have moved from this planet Earth, that is when Minnesota sports wins a World Championship. Unfortunately. Expansion crushes in the house. Tuffy Duffy is here. Mowing after dark. Greg is cold that he doesn't sweat. He sleets. My goodness. My goodness. Greg is cold that he doesn't sweat. He sleeps. Thank you for the $2 holler, Moen. I appreciate it, sir. I appreciate it. Moen, I went after you. Yesterday. Moen, I went after you on this live show. I went after you. I went after Daniel Gygax. I went after the Professor Wild Ute for the unbelievable disrespect you gave the Golden Gophers on your tremendous Friday night live show at College Football Mafia. But I lit into you, my man. I lit into you. Did you see Drake Lindsey's second throw in the spring football game? A flick of the wrist, 60 yards, 49-degree weather, bam, bomb. Even if I am Greg the Cooler in 2026, which I'm not going to be, but even if I am, Drake Lindsey is going to make you Moen, Wild Professor, Nathan Brown, Daniel Gygax, and everybody in the chat room. Drake Lindsey and the Golden Gophers are going to make you look like the frozen tundra of Mars. How about them apples, Moen? How about them apples? Expansion crush. Minnesota will win another championship in hockey and football. Well, they've never, now maybe the Gophers hockey, yes, someday. But football, Vikings have never won the Super Bowl. The Minnesota North Stars and the Wild have never won the Cup. The Timberwolves have never won the NBA championship. The Minnesota Kicks and Minnesota United have never won the MLS Cup. The Twins won the World Series in 91 and 87. And thank God I was an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 21-year-old. But everybody who's been born since 1992 as a Minnesota fan of men's sports have never enjoyed a world championship, even though Minnesota has every sports franchise there could possibly be in hockey, in everything. Because I am the mayor of Loserville City. Edward the Auburn Tiger. More people will watch SEC football. People want competition, high competition football. We have passion, fans, brands, and talent. We're already subsidizing college football nationally. Edward the Auburn Tiger wants to say bye-bye to everybody in the chat. Unless you go Black 45. Unless you're Don Scruggs. Unless you're in SEC country. Edward the Auburn Tiger has had enough. He wants the SEC to split town. Don Scruggs is absolutely correct. Drake the Great is coming for y'all. Don Scruggs, I'm stealing that from you. I'm not going to borrow that. I'm not asking Don Scruggs. I'm flat out stealing that. I hope you don't mind. Drake the Great. Did you see those wide receivers? Did you see Jalen Smith, who had a very good freshman season? You saw how much bigger he got? Did you see true freshman Hayden Moore? Did you see Perry Thompson with the touchdown catch? Coming 5-star, coming from Auburn, transferred from Auburn Tigers. Did you see Noah Jennings, transferred from the Cincinnati Bearcats? The Minnesota Golden Gophers wide receiver room is 5 levels better than it was last year. The Gophers were dead last in rushing in the Big Ten last year. Drake Lindsay had to do everything last year. And now he's got the juice around him. Look out, baby. Look out. Look out. Don Scruggs is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Victor Camalio, thank you for coming on in. Puerto Rico, Goal Knowles. Goal Knowles. Old Dad is in the house. Marcus Williams. All right, let's get to it, guys. Let's get to it. We've got a $5 holla. $5 holla from the Eva Badger. PATC community, don't help G the Freezer with his rankings. Don't help G the Freezer with his rankings. I'm not quite sure what that means. Now, do I steal? At once in a while, do I steal the wisdom of the PATC Einsteins in the chat room? Yes, I do. I'm reading your chats. I'm letting it marinate. Some of you are very wise at times. Is that what Ryan Evil Badger is saying? Don't give Greg Flugar any information about your teams. Don't let him steal your information, your knowledge of your own teams. I'm not sure. Thank you for the $5 holla, Ryan Willie. I appreciate it very much. And we've got Kenneth Maynard. Feel good about the Carolina Panthers drafting Georgia. Offensive tackle, Monroe Freeling. Texas Tech, Lee Hunter, who I love. Tennessee wide receiver, Chris Bazell. And quarterback, Haynes King. Thank you, Kenneth Maynard. You are a member for now, how many is that? 13 months. 13 months. Holy smokes. You, my friend, are knighted cloak and dagger. All right. First of all, in the I do declares, I don't believe we had an I do declare yesterday. So our last 3 I do declares is Pac-12 clearly wins the G6 TV ratings for Cobra. Hawkeye scores safety in a pick 6 versus the Gophers. Another Jacoba Cat I do declare. And Cyclones defeat the Hawkeyes. Stormy Cyclone. So that is your update on the I do declares. We have 33 of them in the books. 33 of them in the books. Now, let's get to the Georgia Bulldogs. And again, I think Georgia did a couple of I think the Georgia Bulldogs did a couple really sneaky moves in the portal. One of them should be obvious. The other one, I don't know if anybody's really talking about it. But we're going to get into it. First of all, quarterback Gunnar Stockton. 2025 stats, almost 2,900 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 69.7 completion percentage, 150.5 quarterback rating. You throw in 462 yards rushing, 3.6 average per rush. Again, the sack yards go against them. Gunnar Stockton has very, very good mobility, smart young man. Now, I will say this. He threw 25 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, almost a 70% completion percentage. But he threw for 2,800 yards. Georgia Bulldogs, they ran a lot of short passing game last year. A lot of bubble screens at Zachariah Branch. Those type of plays. I felt that the offense was clunky last year and the year before. And I think a lot of that is because the defenses in the SEC especially, they start climbing up at the line of scrimmage on Georgia. They make it more difficult for Georgia to run it. They don't feel like Georgia's going to beat them deep. The SEC defenses don't feel like Georgia's going to throw that long bomb, that long post. So they creep up. 2 years ago, Georgia didn't have a very good running game at all. Last year, I think it was a little bit better. And the main reason, they gave the ball more to Nate Frazier. I do think that Georgia has got to expand the field a little bit. They got to stretch the field a little bit. And I think they picked up somebody in the portal that might help them in that regard. And we're going to get to that in a moment. Gunnar Stockton, very good quarterback last year. He could be in the Heisman race this year. But the straw that should steer the drink at Georgia is this man, Nate Frazier. Nate Frazier. They finally gave him the rock just a little bit more last year. 947 yards rushing, 5.5 yards average per rush, 6 rushing touchdowns, 16 receptions, 116 yards receiving. So they got him a little bit lathered up last year. This year, Nate Frazier should run for 1,200 yards. And he should catch the ball out of the backfield 25 times. This is the guy that the Georgia Bulldogs have to lean on. I get it. I understand it. Early, 2 years ago, he's a better athlete than a running back. He had a little bit of fumbleitis. But now Nate Frazier should be ready to rock and roll. He should be, with Kawan Lacey, top 2 running backs in the SEC, along with the guys that the Longhorns got, which is incredible, with Smothers and Relique Brown and Nate Frazier. Jeremiah Cobb of Auburn. Jeremiah Cobb should have a good season. Nate Frazier should be the straw that stirs the drink at Georgia. Now, this is the guy that I am going to keep a close eye on for Georgia. And I think he was a very sneaky pickup. Isaac Cannon. Transfer from Georgia Tech. Coming from the state of Georgia. Played high school football. Warner Robins, Georgia. He was a low 4-star coming out of high school. He barely played in his true freshman season at Georgia Tech. Last year, he popped out at he popped out on the television screen. This guy is he's 6'4", 6'5". He's an athlete. He's just not a tall kid with a large radius. This guy can get up and move. in Georgia Tech with Haynes. Now, Haynes King had other targets at Georgia Tech, Jamal Haynes, but this guy was just starting to emerge for the Rambling Wreck of Georgia Tech. He reminds me a little bit of Deuce Robinson, who is now at Florida State. This is the type of guy that you can throw the ball down the sideline, have it put it up as a jump ball, and this guy's going to come down with it. Fades in the end zone at the pylons. This is somebody that I think Gunnar Stockton could use at Georgia. And they target him in the portal. He's from Georgia, and he started to emerge last year. Isaiah Cannon, I think, could be a sleeper for the Georgia Bulldogs in 2026. Now, this man is not a sleeper for Georgia. He's been dominating the secondary for the last 2 years. KJ Bolden. KJ Bolden, 32 solo tackles, 76 combination tackles. That's solo and assisted tackles together. 2 interceptions. This is going to be his last year. He's going to be drafted in the NFL draft in the spring of 2027. KJ Bolden is the real deal Holyfield. He plays safety. He can play cornerback, but he's a natural safety. Big time player for the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, again, this to me, the last guy that we're going to spotlight for the Georgia Bulldogs was a major portal get for Georgia. Khalil Barnes. This is what scares me about Clemson. I know this is a spotlight of the Georgia Bulldogs, but this is what... Look, Clemson did not want to lose Khalil Barnes. This guy was not the problem on Clemson's defense. This guy is an all-ACC player. When he went in the portal, it shook me. It shook a lot of Clemson Tigers, and Georgia got him. He's going to be a major player for the Georgia Bulldogs. You've got Bolden and Barnes in the secondary. It scares me about Clemson. And it gives me a little bit more optimism about Georgia. Khalil Barnes was not the problem at Clemson last year. Very good football player. Georgia has a lot of talent. A lot of talent once again. And here is their football schedule. Tennessee State, Western Kentucky, and they begin the SEC schedule at Arkansas. At home against Oklahoma. At home against Vanderbilt. They got to go on the road to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Then they're at home against Auburn. And then they're at home against Florida. Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Ole Miss, back-to-back weeks. From October 10th to November 7th, there is a bye week between the Auburn and Florida games. Thank goodness. It is that part of the schedule for the Georgia Bulldogs. On the road to Alabama, at home against Auburn, at home against Florida, on the road against Ole Miss. And then they finish up the season, Missouri, South Carolina, Columbia. They got to go to Columbia, and then at home against Georgia Tech. a workable schedule. Oklahoma, they got them at home. They got at home early with the Sooners. But then it's at Alabama, Auburn, back-to-back, bye week, and then Florida and Ole Miss, back-to-back. As you see in the SEC, I got Georgia as number 3. For me, I do not believe I'm going to be moving the Georgia Bulldogs down to 4 or 5. 3 is their floor. And again, I might have to rethink the Georgia LSU positioning. But right now, I've got Georgia as number 3. When it comes to the way too early, college football playoffs, I got Georgia at number 8, playing the Indiana Hoosiers in the first round of the playoffs. And then I got Indiana defeating Georgia. So I do not have Georgia winning a playoff game this year. I have them coming in 3rd in the SEC and losing to the Indiana Hoosiers in Georgia. And why is that? Because overall, I don't know if I can trust the Georgia Bulldogs offense against the better teams. There's something clunky about it. Something is not working. Hopefully Nate Frazier gets the rock. Hopefully Georgia can spread the football downfield a little bit more. Keep the defense honest a little bit. Get the linebackers off the line of scrimmage. Get more room for Nate Frazier. Don't rely on all these bubble screens all the time. I got Georgia coming in 3rd in the Southeastern Conference, get into the playoffs as the 9th seed, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in the month of August. I might have to rethink it. All right, so that is your spotlight. That is your spotlight for the Georgia Bulldogs. All right. So, I'm just going to touch upon the UConn Huskies for a moment. And the Pac-12. And then we'll get to the Florida State fork in the road situation. UConn, John Casano out there in Oregon is reporting a couple of days ago that the Pac-12 is targeting UConn as a football-only member. Now, again, I have not, there is no chatter behind the curtain that I have picked up on in regards to UConn and the Pac-12. It does not mean that it's not happening. It could be very well happening. Cloak and dagger style. I'm not talking to the people that have talked to the people that have talked to the people that would know. So I'm not saying, look, we're not infallible here. Maybe the talks are going on. Maybe UConn is about to join the Pac-12 as a football-only member. But I'm going to go ahead and say it here at College Football Peek Around the Corner. I highly doubt it. I can understand why the Pac-12 would be interested in that type of move. If UConn would get together with the Pac-12 schools of the conference to integrate some of that women's basketball and men's basketball non-conference games and make sure they play them against Pac-12 schools, I can see why the Pac-12 would be interested in that. And why the Pac-12 would say, okay, UConn, come and play football-only membership in the Pac-12. You got a better shot to get to the playoffs. We might be going our own silos. You need to get to a conference. The door is open for you, UConn. I understand it from the Pac-12 perspective. I don't understand it from a UConn perspective. I don't know why UConn would do such a thing. To talk with the Pac-12, sure, but to actually pull the trigger, I don't think so. And again, I have not been able to find anybody to tell me that the talks are going on. I don't think look, UConn, I get it. Like we said in episode 488 earlier today, I get it. UConn, they're probably feeling the pressure. They may need to join a conference in football here. But why now and why the Pac-12? I don't know. If I was a leader of UConn athletics, if I was the president of the University of Connecticut, it would be impossible to do that type of deal right now. To have your football program go on the road 4 times a year, go to the West Coast and play football, and give up some of those non-conference games, go out west or have them. It doesn't make any sense from the UConn perspective. The Big 12 commissioner, Brett Yormark, he's still in the UConn corner. The Big 12 commissioner is still in the corner of UConn. It doesn't mean that UConn's going to make it to the Big 12. But they got a commissioner there that is in their corner. And then you have the potential poaching of the ACC coming within the next couple of years. So why would UConn do such a thing? I don't quite understand it from a UConn perspective. So again, I've had quite a few people send me DMs about the Casano report. So I just wanted to make an episode of it. I want to talk about it live here, give you guys an opportunity. Now let me know what you think. Okay, now let's get to the Florida State. Let's get to the Florida State situation here. Florida State is at the fork. They have come to the fork. Go right. And that is SCC Big Scoop Road. Go left. And that is the Big Ten National Highway. They come on the fork in the road. Florida State, and there's a couple rocks in both lanes. A few days ago, last week, we said we gave you a report from the Florida State Money Perch, the first update in 6 to 8 months. The Florida State Money, it was a Friday night. It was not 2 nights ago, but 9. It was Friday, April 17th. A live show. The Florida State Money Perch communicated to us there is more optimism in Tallahassee. There's more optimism there than has been there for a long time when it comes to the next wave of realignment. You all know how pessimistic the Florida State Money Perch has been, but 9 days ago, he had optimism. He still has optimism. He got that information from that retreat of Michael Alford and Peter Collins had with the Board of Trustees. All that happened that week, and the Money Perch was able to give us the information, and we delivered to you on a Friday or Saturday, Sunday, whatever. And then on Monday, War Chant came out with an article talking about what happened with Mike Alford Collins giving the Board of Trustees a retreat, a report on what was going on. Now, a few days ago, a door was opened to us at Peek Around the Corner. Chatter behind the curtain door was open to us, just like it was open to us on June 15th of 2024, when we accurately reported to you all that Clemson and Florida State is not a shot at them. We're not the number 1 and number 2 targets of the SEC and the Big Ten, and nothing was imminent. They did not have a handshake deal. There was no wink, wink. All that was accurate, by the way. Another door had been opened to us, so we reported on an early peak Cloak and Dagger episode from Members Only, and now we are reporting it live for everybody, that the likeliest road to the P2 for the Florida State Seminoles is to go right, is to go down SEC Big Scoop Road. Let me explain. Now, you know, on April 9th of 2025, I had a prediction show on the next realignment because people kept asking me, Greg, what do you think is going to happen? And I kept answering, I don't like to say what I think is going to happen because people like to mix that up with my reporting. But eventually, so many people asked me on so many live shows in the chat room, I finally came out with a prediction show. And I predicted Florida State to the Southeastern Conference in a big scoop. 4-team edition for the Southeastern Conference. That was April 9th of 2025. I came out with another prediction show, not a report. Another prediction show on April 9th, 2026. Again, I predicted Florida State to the Southeastern Conference in a big scoop. So this information, this new information, does fit to what I happen to believe is going to happen. Not a report, just my prediction. But I got to tell you, it has been re-emphasized to me with some more detailed information that Florida State does know that it is most likely, if they're going to get to the P2 anytime soon, it's probably going to have to go down SEC Big Scoop Road. And here are the reasons for that. And this was told to me. A door was opened to us, fortunately, here at Peek Around the Corner. Number one, the Big Ten, sure. Interest in Florida State? Sure. The Florida State and Miami blend would work? Sure. Absolutely. Florida State, beautiful big football brand, great fan base, emerging research university, probably is going to be AAU in the next decade. All of that is great. It just so happens that the information that continues to come out of the Big Ten is that the war game in the Big Ten, there is so many other scenarios that are been mapped out from the Big Ten. You would have to have dominoes fall just perfectly for Florida State to become a Big Ten member. While in the SEC, you really only need about 2 dominoes to fall in a certain way, and people can see that happening a lot easier than the Big Ten. It's a lot easier for Florida State to join the SEC, to have the votes in the SEC, to be war game in more scenarios in the SEC than it is in the Big Ten. It has been open to us. It was told to us. What does Florida State need? For them to be able to file a notice of withdrawal on or before June 1st, 2027, or on or before June 1st, 2028 to get to the Southeastern Conference. Let's do that one first because that's the easier one. Florida State would want the following. They would want the Southeastern Conference to go through this huge transformation. They would want the Southeastern Conference to do the big scoop. Now, it wasn't said big scoop to me. That's my verbiage. The chatter behind the curtain, the door that was open to me and now to you, they're not using that verbiage. The Southeastern Conference, if they go to 20 schools, then Florida State is most likely in the fold in the Southeastern Conference. What would it take for the Southeastern Conference to go to 20 schools? That's the question. Because in the Southeastern Conference, as was told to us just a few days ago, that's why we dropped the early Pete Cloak and Dagger episode. The question on the small scoop and the big scoop, that is PATC verbiage, that question is going to be a bloody, bloody mess inside the SEC. It's not going to be easy either way. It was told to us that the Southeastern Conference recognizes the fact that the conference should expand the footprint, should expand and get a more diverse student population, demographics, media markets, and get ready for the expansion in the international markets, Middle Eastern markets, the expansion into more research, on and on and on and on. The SEC has already made that decision a few years ago that they should expand when they can expand. But when it gets down to the big scoop and the small scoop, it isn't going to be easy either way. It was not easy. It was told to me, I was reminded. None of the decisions lately for the Southeastern Conference has been easy to make. The conference is up to 16 schools, just like the Big Ten's at 18. There's a diversity of thought. There's a diversity in which the universities and what level they're at. There is a want list. There is this list of each of these SEC schools. Like they all want a little bit something different. If you ask some of those SEC schools, they would love if the Southeastern Conference did the big scoop and they went a little west or a little bit north of Oklahoma or west of Texas. It's not going to be, look, the playoff format is an indication of the Southeastern Conference is not aligned. Look, the Big Ten is not aligned on many things. On the playoffs, they are. On expansion, they sort of are. That's another discussion for another day. But the Southeastern Conference is not going to come to this decision easily. There are important voices in the SEC that want to go to playoff to 24 teams. There's some that want to go to 16. And it's not a small faction either way. Just like it was not a small faction either way when when they were trying to decide and go from 8 conference games to 9 conference games. Those that were told that the playoffs were going to expand from 12 teams to 16 if the SEC went from 8 conference games to 9 conference games, they feel that the rug has been pulled out from under them. If the Southeastern Conference is going to do the big scoop expansion, if they're going to go to 16 to 20, they've got to know that the college football playoffs is going to be bringing a whole lot more money to the conference. They've got to know that the expansion of the games in the playoffs are going to bring a whole lot more money to the conference. They've got to know that a 9 conference game, 18 or 20 team conference can provide the opportunities to all these SEC football teams to make it to the football playoffs, to have that home games on campus. The Southeastern Conference has got to be sure about the future of what we're getting into. Silo or no silo. Florida State they do want the Southeastern Conference to actually come out of those May meetings and before support a 24-team playoffs. The larger the playoffs, the more opportunities that the Southeastern Conference feels comfortable enough, protected enough, have their interests protected enough to expand their own conference. Now, there's some hesitation in the Southeastern Conference, right? For lots of good reasons. Where's the money coming from? How much more money are we going to get when we expand from 11 playoff games to 23 playoff games? We're going to lose our Southeastern Conference championship game? That's a lot of money. That's got to be made up and more to fill the coffers of the SEC schools. But if the big scoop is coming, if the 24-team playoff is coming, and I think there is an emerging consensus, unless things go really crazy with the silo stuff, if it goes to extremes, the consensus is someday we're going to get to that 24-team playoff. And it's probably going to be part of the compromise on the settlement of what the playoffs are going to look like going forward. So the Florida State Seminoles feel good about the future college football playoff format, indicating that the SEC would probably be more open to a 20-team conference versus an 18-team conference. So that seems to be going in the right direction for Florida State. Number 2, the SEC TV ratings are blowing the doors off the hinges. They are undervalued. So, when we're talking about an early TV media negotiations that Ross Dellinger and others have reported in the last month that is likely to occur, and that the SEC wants to expand, there's a lot of interest in expanding into North Carolina. There's a lot of interest in expanding in Virginia. But to do that, to be able to do that, you don't want those ratings to sink. You don't want those ratings to be sabotaged. Again, this plays into the hands of the Florida State Seminoles and, of course, the Clemson Tigers. Those TV ratings being so high, because people say Big Ten really needs Florida State because look at the Big Ten ratings. You can flip that. You can say the SEC would really like Florida State and Clemson because their TV ratings are so high. Now they can bring in a North Carolina and a Virginia, or a North Carolina and a Duke, or a North Carolina and a whatever, Kansas, whatever. They can do that because now they're also bringing in a Florida State and Clemson. Here's another thing. Florida State they ruffled some feathers when they went to the ACC to sue the ACC. In what was in their court papers ruffled the feathers of many presidents out there. Because Florida State went after ESPN and all that. But there does seem to be a thawing of the relationships between Florida State and many presidents. A door was open to us. This was just talked about a few days ago. One of the things that is playing in Florida State's and Clemson's direction is the fact of the talk of a Super League. The Super League is something that Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, they don't want this. They completely reject this. Auburn, Kentucky, they don't want anything to do with any of the Super League stuff. But they understand, and the Big Ten understands, this seems to be a continuous threat. You take Florida State out the board, you take a Clemson out the board. Now the Southeastern Conference is in more control of what they want to do, more in control of their destiny, more in control versus any Super League discussion. Because the Florida State and Clemson would be the beachheads of that new Super League. There's also another thing that a door was open to us, and this door has been open to us as a few items, a few times. We talked about the relationship between Florida State and Miami not being a bad one. Of course, the fans go at it, which is great, but the universities do not. Well, the door was opened to us a couple of days ago, and Gainesville, Florida, University of Florida, I know I'm going to get dragged over the coals on this. It does not seem to be that the University of Florida is a veto. I don't think they're a no vote for Florida State. I don't think they're perceived as a no vote for Florida State to enter into the Southeastern Conference. What was told to us a couple of days ago, that does not seem to be the case anymore. If the Southeastern Conference is going to do their silo, and if they're going to go to the extreme part of that silo, they're going to need the state of Florida support, most likely, and getting Florida State on board is probably a prerequisite to be able to get all that done. Just like it's important to get Georgia on board, the state of Tennessee on board. You're probably going to want Tallahassee. You're going to want Florida. So every part of this continuous story, and again, nothing is done, nothing is settled, and I don't believe anything is imminent. Everything keeps leading Florida State to the Southeastern Conference. And now for the Big Ten. Again, the door was open to us a couple of days ago. And the Big Ten has a lot of different options in front of them. A lot. And they don't know where it's going. Right? They're wargaming it out. If Notre Dame makes an early decision, Notre Dame makes a late decision, and Notre Dame makes a no decision to the Big Ten. They've wargamed all of this out. If North Carolina does the flip and comes back to the Big Ten. The Big Ten has they have a lot more different scenarios under their roof. And Florida State is not really involved in many of them. That's just how it is. Does that mean the door is shut on the Seminoles to get to the Big Ten? No. It just means the Big Ten, their chess pieces, it's just, there is a lot more rocks in the road. When you look at the fork in the road of the Florida State Seminole walking down, there's a lot more, there's a few more rocks on the left side than on the right side. You're going to have to do there's too many options that the Big Ten can do. And Florida State would need the right blend of the Big Ten. And the chatter behind the curtain, the information given to me a couple of days ago, it still looks like the Big Ten is looking at other scenarios in front of any that has the Florida State Seminoles involved. Hello, what was that? Okay, all right. So, now that's not to say that the door is shut or closed on any of this, but it's a reiteration that the likeliest path for Florida State to get to the P2 is in the Southeastern Conference. Now, I know that goes against, I think, the majority of the college football YouTube channels out there. I think that goes against what War Chant. Now, people send me information on War Chant. They keep thinking that it's the Big Ten. And I get all that. And I respect everyone's information and their sources and everything. But I'm pretty confident in my information. I'm pretty confident right now in my information that it is most likely the Southeastern Conference for Florida State, along with the Clemson, along with the North Carolina, and along with school number 4. As long as the faction within the Southeastern Conference that truly wants to open up the college football playoff expansion to 24, the ones that want to make sure that the TV ratings stay as high as possible, the football ratings as high as possible, the ones that really want to create more and more pressure on those ticket prices, and all that other stuff that comes on with signage, football signage, sponsorship, national advertisers, all of that stuff, as long as they keep winning the battle, Florida State and Clemson are most likely to go to the Southeastern Conference. Here is the danger point for Florida State. This is the danger point. What happens if the Southeastern Conference decides that they do not want to go and expand to 4 schools? What if it is a small scoop? What if it is in North Carolina and Virginia? What if it's in North Carolina, Clemson? What happens to Florida State? That's the danger point. But again, I gave you my prediction on April 9th. Everything to me is leading toward a big transformation of the Southeastern Conference, possibly going in their own silos, wanting to make sure that they have total political commitment and support from the people in the state of Florida, the politicians, the leadership, and grab Florida State, and along with Florida, 2 of the biggest public impactful schools in the state of Florida, have them be in the SEC column. Make sure you bring on Clemson to make sure South Carolina and Clemson, you've got the state of South Carolina. You bring on a North Carolina, you got the state of North Carolina, and you can make sure you got the support you need from the state houses of every one of these states to support your universities and to support the conference if they go out into the silo or not a silo. Everything that is dropping right now, every bit of indicators looks to be Florida State to the Southeastern Conference. And I do respect those that have got different information, that believe that Florida State's going to the Big Ten because they've done A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I don't think that's the chalk at all. There are some things that there is a few pieces of information that have nothing to do with Florida State. It's not about Florida State. That we here at Peek Around the Corner are embargoed. I cannot talk about a few pieces of items in regards to the Big Ten. Someday, hopefully soon, I can talk about them. But I'll just say this in general. The Big Ten is not aligned on what their future is. The Buckeyes, the Ohio State University has a bigger say in the future of the Big Ten than they've ever had before. And we've gone over the reasons why that is. But they just had a change in leadership. And the Big Ten isn't really sure what it's going to do next. They know they're going to do something. They know they're leaving money on the table. They know they are. They know that their last expansion has made the conference richer. They believe the next expansion is going to make the conference richer. But I don't believe they know exactly what they're going to do. And I don't think that the chatter behind the curtain definitely believes that they don't know what they're going to do. Depending on the fallout of the SCORE Act, depending on the fallout of a few different items. Nebraska 18, depending on what the Southeastern Conference is going to do with their silo decision. But I don't think the Big Ten is fully aligned yet on what they're going to do. So, I'm going to say this as softly and as carefully as I can say it. And then we're going to open up the phone lines. Ohio State is going to get what they want out of this. Ohio State is going to be happy with the final decision that the Big Ten makes. But who else is going to be happy? That's the question. And we don't have the answer to that. Michigan was very happy with what the Big Ten did last time. Penn State wasn't all that happy. I got a feeling that Penn State is going to have to be made happy on this next transformation of the Big Ten. But does USC need to be made happy? Does Oregon and Washington need to be made happy? And again, there's information out there that I can't quite crack open yet. I'm giving you some hints, though. Washington, I'll give you another hint. Washington and Oregon are going to have to be made whole on whatever the Big Ten does next. And to do that, to be able to achieve that, might take some potential Big Ten candidates off the table. And that's as far as I can go with that. And then you've got the Notre Dame situation. Anyways, that's what the information that I wanted to share with you guys today on April 26th. Again, we shared some of this with our members only, our PATC family members, on an early peak Cloak and Dagger episode a few days ago. And now it was time to do a live show on it. The fork in the road. Florida State's on that fork of the road. We believe it is most likely they go right. They take the big scoop road of the SEC to the right. To the left is the Big Ten National Highway. We do not believe, as of April 26th, that that's the road they're going to eventually take. Nothing's closed. Nothing is done. Nothing is settled. We continue on. We knew this was going to be a long and winding story here. This was going to be a lot more complicated than anything we've ever talked about here at Peek Around the Corner. The Holy Smokes Theater is a lot more complicated than the Colorado standing at the center of the stage and all the other stories that we were able to break here at College Football, Peek Around the Corner. Florida State, they have walked upon the fork in the road. No, I got a couple of these yellow shirts, by the way. I got a couple of these yellow shirts. I look good in yellow. I look good in it. The only colors I don't look good in is Wisconsin red. Wisconsin red. All right, guys. Let me get to, I think we got a couple of super chats here. Daniel Gorby. Daniel Gorby, thank you so very much for the $5 holla. The business community in Tallahassee wants the SEC much more attractive to attract fans from SEC country, and that means more money. And you know what? I agree with that. Now, that doesn't mean, again, no door is closed. I don't believe. I think there is interest in Florida State everywhere. And that includes some from the Big Ten. This has a lot to do with it, what Daniel Gorby just said. The business community probably wants Tallahassee to join the SEC. I think most people would agree. I think most Florida State people would agree. Let me know if you disagree, but I think Daniel Gorby is absolutely correct. Now, that's not the only variable that you think of, but it's an important one. Thank you, Daniel Gorby. Thank you for the $5 holler. Thank you for your generosity, sir. Very much appreciated. Jacobra Cat, $5 holla. The road to the Big Ten should be paved with streetlights, invisible yellow lane dividers. Most SEC counties can't gravel. Dirt more accurate. Thank you for the $5 holla, Jacobra Cat. I very much appreciate it. Now, I could have put a lot of snow in the Big Ten highway, right? I could have done that. Thank you for the $5 holla, Jacobra Cat, Mr. Iowa Hawkeye. I very much appreciate it. And we have an official I do declare. The first I do declare today, I do declare there will be a 3-loss national champ. My goodness. Wow. Now, a 3-loss national champ would mean that a 3-loss team has to get into the playoffs this year. So a 3-loss team would probably be seeded 11th, right? 10th or 11th. So what you're saying is an 11th seed team would beat a 6th seed team, and then go on to beat the 3rd seeded team. Well, we're going to give that a valuation of 5. We're going to give you that evaluation of 5. Because first of all, yeah, it's going to be difficult. That is going to be very difficult to happen, but that's an interesting one. Thank you, Jacoba Cat. We're going to book that. That is going to be in the official bookings of I Do Declare, the competition that we're having. At the end of the college football championship game, there is going to be a world champion I Do Declare predictions for the college football season 2026. So Jacoba Cat, I do declare there'll be a 3-loss national champion, is going to be 34. The 34th I Do Declare. Thank you, Jacoba Cat. I very much appreciate it. Very interesting. People are being very creative. And here is Marcus Williams. I just don't get why, if the Big Ten wants to be national, why they're not gung-ho on Florida State, Clemson, Miami, UVA, and etc. You need the Southeast to be truly national. I agree with you. I agree with you that you need the Southeast to be truly national. I absolutely agree with you. Yep, I mean, I agree with you, Marcus. Well, now there's obviously there's options that do not include Florida State and Clemson to get to the Southeastern Conference. And it sounds like those options are a little bit more elevated in the Big Ten president minds than the options that include Florida State and Clemson. And that has been true for a while, and I think it's still true today, especially with the doors being opened to us a couple of days ago on a new updated information on what is happening in the Big Ten, how they're thinking this. I also will say the door is not completely shut. I've always said that, and I'm saying that today, and that's the chatter behind the curtain. It could end up being a Florida State-Miami blend. It just sounds like there's other options that are more elevated at this time. Thank you, Marcus Williams. I think a lot of people would agree with you, though. I know I do. You got to get to the southeastern part of the country if you truly want to call yourself a national conference, which has a lot of challenges, right? To be a national conference of 20 teams, to be in the southeastern part of the country, 20 plus teams. I mean, that is going to be a governance challenge. That's going to be very hard to keep together. Realignment never sleeps. Expansion one day, fracture another. Thank you, Marcus Williams. Thank you very much. We're going to open up the phone lines. Here. Kenneth Maynard, if the Big Ten is not in the Southeast or Texas, you are invisible to a lot of the country. It's all SEC. D5 Terps, I would prefer 19 to 20 to be Miami, Florida State, and 21 to 24 be Notre Dame. 1 Southeast, 2 in the Mountain West for division balance. Don Scruggs, we prefer pollen down here. Southern folks are allergic to snow. Expansion crush, Indiana, 16-0 again. 16-0 again.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Expansion crush, that is impossible for Indiana to go 16-0 again. That's impossible because my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers are going into Bloomington, Indiana on October 31st to shock the world, to shock the world. Maybe you go 15-1, but you're not going 16-0, my brother. That is for sure. Amazing Blue. Amazing Blue. Officially early peak cloak and dagger. Remember, once again, don't get why this is hard, Greg. You need big brands. You need big brands to make schools whole and bring revenue for all Big Ten schools. Yes. You also need 13 votes. You also need 13 votes. But you are correct, Amazing Blue. You are correct. You are correct. Marcus Williams, thank you so much, Amazing Blue. Thank you for becoming an early peak Cloak and Dagger member for 23 months. Holy smokes. Marcus Williams, the Big Ten is so fixated on Notre Dame. So fixated on Notre Dame. They're not missing out on forcing Notre Dame to join by taking the best ACC schools. Okay, let me ask the question. What ACC schools do Notre Dame want to have join them? If Notre Dame went to the Big Ten and says, okay, we'll join the Big Ten, you're going to take a couple ACC schools. These are the ACC schools here in South Bend that we would prefer. Who's at the top of the Notre Dame list when it comes to ACC schools? Who's at the bottom of the list when it comes to ACC schools? And I think that has an impact on the Big Ten's different war game scenarios. Drake the Great is on a mission. Edward the Auburn Tiger, are we out on Virginia Tech, Greg? No, I don't think so. I don't think the door is shut on Virginia Tech. Nope. I do not think so. Morris Simmons, early peak Cloak and Dagger member for 25 months. Thank you, Mr. Seminole. I appreciate it, Greg. I told you the Big Ten is placing themselves on a holding pattern for Notre Dame. When Notre Dame doesn't have a choice, don't make sense, but so be it. That's playing a lot. That's playing into this. No question about it. It's not all of it, though. It's not all of it. There's other things that are going on, but that's not. But yes, that's part of it. That is part of it. Marcus Williams, thank you. Maury Simmons, Mr. Seminole, I appreciate it, sir. 25 months. Thank you for all your support. Thank you, sir. Marcus Williams, well, Notre Dame has a 12-year deal with Clemson. You take them to start, then Miami, Florida State, and Georgia Tech. Kenneth Maynard, Notre Dame wants Stanford or Miami. Okay, let's open up the phone lines. Opening up the phone lines, 763-260-1333. The lines are wide open. The lines are wide open. And again, the Georgia Bulldogs spotlight squarely on Gunnar Stockton, Nate Frazier, the transfer from Georgia Tech, Isaiah Kenyon, KJ Bolden, and Khalil Barnes, Clemson, Georgia. My goodness. Georgia is absolutely loaded once again. The schedule: Tennessee State, Western Kentucky, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Ole Miss, Missouri, South Carolina, Georgia Tech. That four-game part of the schedule. October 10th at Alabama, Tuscaloosa. Saturday, October 17th, Auburn. Then they're going to be at home against what I think is going to be a very competitive Florida Gators team. Sorry, Don Scruggs. Sorry, Wendy Scruggs. Sorry, all you Bulldogs out there. I think the Gators are going to be ready for Georgia. And then they got to go on the road at Ole Miss. That's a tough part of the schedule, man. Before that and after that, yeah, they're going to rack up a lot of wins. They're going to rack up a lot of confidence. They're going to rack up a lot of reps for this younger players. But that part of the schedule there, from Alabama to Ole Miss. Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Ole Miss. That's going to be a challenge. That is going to be a challenge. Holy smokes. We got a massive super chat. Massive super chat. Wow. Amazing Blue. Correct me if I'm wrong, but hasn't Notre Dame ruined 2 conferences now? Why would anyone get into that school? They almost ended the Big Ten East. Doing it to the ACC and now the Big Ten willing to do it just to have them in. This is foolish for supposed smart people. The Michigan Wolverine. The Michigan Wolverine, Amazing Blue, doesn't believe the Big Ten should bend the knee for Notre Dame at all. At all. Now, Amazing Blue, let me ask you a question. Would you be okay if the Big Ten added on 2 ACC schools and then added on Notre Dame, not as a full-time member, but as a scheduling agreement? So Notre Dame would keep their football independence? Would you be okay with that, Amazing Blue? I don't think you would be, but I'm just asking. That would keep Notre Dame out as a full member. Amazing Blue, then Michigan Wolverines. D5 Terps says no, 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 no. No, no, no. No, okay, no, okay. Amazing Blue, thank you for the incredible generosity. My goodness. Amazing Blue is talking with a strong voice right now. I think a lot of Wolverines would agree with them. Why are we spending all this time on Notre Dame once again? Let's focus on the southeastern schools that we can get. If we're aggressive, if we offer first, but again, whatever you do, Amazing Blue, whether you offer Florida State, whether you offer Georgia Tech, whether you offer Virginia, whether you offer North Carolina, whatever you do, you're going to have to make Washington and Oregon whole to get the votes. So Notre Dame,
from
Fred, thank you for calling. I very much appreciate it. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Greg. I guess I was agreeing with you that Florida State's most likely to go to the SEC, but I'm wondering now, is it very possible that the SEC may do a big scoop and only get in one new state?
And get one what now?
And get into only one new state with
I see. I have a big problem with that. I don't think that would work, right? I think they would have to get into at least 2 new states, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And if Virginia, you're correct that Virginia's kind of changed and it's not as likely. then Duke would seem like that's a duplication.
Yes.
They're willing to duplicate in Florida. They're willing to duplicate in South Carolina. But don't the other two schools have to be different?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. But again, that's why I think Virginia Tech is in the mix more now than they were, right?
Right.
Because what's happening in Virginia. But again, I think the University of Virginia is way more complicated now for the SEC. But I got to tell you, the chatter behind the curtain is still fully squared on this. The Southeastern Conference wants in the state of North Carolina and they want into the state of Virginia. That's what they want. And the Southeastern Conference usually gets what they want.
Right.
So it's more tricky to get Virginia, but if North Carolina can somehow figure out a way to find a pathway from the ACC to the Board of Governors to the SEC, the political dynamics with North Carolina, Virginia, North Carolina giving Virginia some political cover. I know there's going to be a faculty war if Virginia would decide. I think the governor would lose support. I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot that is standing in the way now of the Southeastern Conference to grab Virginia. But again, I'm not going to shut the door on that. I'm definitely not going to. But it's way more complicated now. It's a complicated situation, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Hey, if I don't hold you to it, can I get you to say what your opinion today is of what that fourth school is, even though it's very early at this point?
Yeah, I've thrown out on April 9th, I did a prediction show of this year, like I did in 2025. And my prediction, again this year, I proclaimed there'd be a 1% chance of getting it correct because there's a million variables out there and nothing's done, nothing is settled. Definitely not a report. I have Virginia Tech as that fourth school.
Okay.
But, again, is that a long shot? Yes, it is. But I think Virginia has become very tricky, very, very difficult. Way more difficult now than it was 6 months ago. Way more difficult. And
now you've mentioned about how the possible options the Big Ten might be considering.
Yes.
Is it very likely if they do two new schools, they're going to be in two new states?
Well, it's about a 99% chance, I think. I mean, unless the Notre Dame Stanford thing happens, or unless the Florida State Miami thing happens, I think it'll be obviously two new states.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm at the point where I'm going to keep saying for Notre Dame until they say yes. I'm not going to. Predict in my mind that you're going to say yes. So one day they will, but I'm not going to keep guessing wrong that this is the time to do it, until they actually do it. So,
let me bring this up during Fred's call here, if you don't mind, Fred. I'll just bring this up, ladies and gentlemen. The Big Ten has a big expansion candidates list for more than one reason. There's a lot of different reasons out there. First of all, the Big Ten is very diverse. It has a lot of different interests, and there's a lot of different polling back and forth. Ohio State is going to run this thing, and they're going to get what they want, but there's another part of this outside of the Buckeyes getting what they want. The Big Ten, I'm just going to throw this out there. The Big Ten internally has acknowledged that they're probably in a better spot now than they thought they were going to be after the last expansion. Not only what's going on in the football field and the basketball court and the baseball field and all that stuff. Economically, they're in a lot better position. They thought they were going to be in a better position for the next when they expanded. but they're in a better position than they thought. The Big Ten Network is doing better in the Pacific Coast than they thought. It's better. The city of Los Angeles. There is more money. Things are better in the Big Ten than they thought. So when you do something that works, you kind of do it again, right?
Correct.
And again, I'm just going to bring this up, and I'm going to get hollered at. The PAC, the chat room is going to come after me. Fred might come after me, but I got to say it. There is some interest, maybe not in Ohio State, but that other part that might make this next expansion work for all in the Big Ten. Again, there's interest in the Big Ten. Some interest, probably more than a little slice of interest for the Big Ten to go out west again. And that's why there's certain schools out west that are on the candidates list, because they went west and wow, it worked. What if we go west again, just a little bit more, maybe not as far out west, and that might even make it even more palatable, more better with travel, more this, more that, more a different region of the country. You know, that is part of what is happening inside the Big Ten as well. They've got more options than the SEC. They're looking at more options. So any option in the Big Ten under that umbrella is less likely. The SEC's got a few different options. Go ahead, Fred.
Okay, but you're still at the point saying that whatever they come up with, Ohio State will be happy with.
Yes. Yep.
It's not one thing they have to have.
Yeah. The Buckeyes are going to come out of this happy. Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess my only concern with, going west again, they're going to have to do a good job of integrating these new schools out west into the Big Ten, to feel like they're part of the Big Ten. So that you don't have a West versus East voting block.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I don't understand the voting blocks at all, but other than the fact that Michigan may have burned a few.
Yeah.
So, but, I'm going to be happy with anything you do. But do you still think that right after the SEC makes their decisions that the Big Ten won't take very long to make theirs?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep with that prediction. Yes, I don't think it would take that long.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Greg. I was just wondering about that.
You got it, buddy. I appreciate the phone call, sir.
Sure. Take care.
Beautiful, Fred. Great caller once again. Legendary PATC caller. Beautiful. All right, let me just check a couple of messages here. Let me check a couple of messages. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've been on the air for about an hour and 50 minutes. I think we're going to close it up. We are going to have a busy week this week. I'm not going to even... on Tuesday, there's going to be the arbitration hearing for the Nebraska 18. Now, I don't know. Does anybody in the chat room knows? I'm guessing that is not going to be in public. I'm not going to be able to find a stream for that. If I could find a stream for that, if somebody has that, for whatever reason that is in the public space that we can watch that, I would love to live stream that arbitration case. I'm guessing there's no chance of that happening, but I just wanted to put that out there. But that is a big, big item for this week. April 28th, Tuesday, the Nebraska 18 arbitration meeting. And soon after that, there should be a decision. At least that's what I've been told. We were told early May. We've said that for the last couple of weeks. So, again, I think next week there's going to... If there is a decision right away on that, woo, baby, it's going to be... there's going to be a lot of drama in the world of college sports. And we cover college football here at Peek Around the Corner. So buckle up, brace for impact, keep your head on a swivel. I do want to thank those who donated the program today to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Bill G gifted memberships once again. Thank you, the incredible, edible Bill G. Zero Wiz with a massive super chat, massive gifted membership. Thank you so very much. Mowing After Dark, the Evil Badger. Thank you, Ryan Willie. Appreciate it. Kenneth Maynor, membership once again. Daniel Gorby, Jacoba Cat. Jacoba Cat is the only one with an I do declare comment prediction for today. He declares there will be a 3-loss national champion. Marcus Williams, Amazing Blue, Morris Simmons, and Amazing Blue, massive super chat. I want to thank you all for doing that. The great phone call from Fred, absolutely beautiful. And again, we'll be on once again Monday, April 27th. Before you leave, please smash the like button. Subscribe to our channel, ring that notification bell, and share the video with your family and friends. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family, golden.